Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good morning. Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hi there, Shabbat Shalom. Are you the famous? I'm the infamous. Oh, thank you. I don't believe it. It's probably just been reading. What's your name? Oh, you're Paul. Hi, Paul. Yeah, so it's really nice. Good to see you, Paul. Did you know actually meet me? Yeah. And I watched it online. Yeah. No, but yeah, that's the form for Jensen. Yeah, it's very good. Hopefully, no one's going to the edited versions high school. Oh, that's wonderful. That's really cool. Yeah. Well, I look forward to sitting down with you. We're going to start services. That's really great to sit down with you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. This is Jocelyn Rossi. Hi, Jocelyn.
No, I'm Jerry. Start me.
Oh, hi, Jerry. Want to do a little fist bump here? Is that the first time meeting Jerry?
No, I was here for the holidays, but I'm friends with all of them.
Oh, good. You're a good person. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, so here, start.
I went to the services outside.
Oh, good. Yeah, great. Good.
Hi, guys.
Hi there. How are you? You're Jocelyn? Hi, Jocelyn. Nice to meet you. Shabbat Shalom.
In New York or Israel?
Well, I was supposed to be in Israel, but only if the Israeli government would have let me in.
Oh, you're Israeli? Yeah.
Yeah, it would have let us in. They're not letting in any tourists.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Turn around. Really, Paul? You're really cute.
You can do lots for love.
That's true.
There you go.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah. Mel is okay?
Mel's fine. He's over there.
All right. So. That sounds great. Boker Tov, good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. And we are going to begin with the morning blessings. Blessings of gratitude to God for allowing us to kind of get out of bed and face the world and enjoy the world and change the world. And I'm looking for the page. The morning blessings can be found on page 103. Page 103, the morning blessings. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasach vivina leavchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, mabish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir nasurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokev kifufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechid mitzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael betifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten layaev koach.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ha'ma'avir she'ena me'enaynu ma'mei af pai v'yiratzon v'chol Adonai Eloheinu v'lo eloteinu v'imotenu shalom. ותננו היום ובכל יום, לכן ולחסד ולרחמים בעיניך ובעיני כל רואינו ותגמלנו חסדים טובים. ברוך אתה אדוני, גומל חסדים טובים לעמו ישראל.
Amen. We can be seated as we turn to page 112 for the Shir Shel Yom the Shabbat, page 112.
היום יום שבת קודש, שבו היו הלוויים עורמים בבית המקדש, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, תולדות אדוני ולזמר לשמך העליון.
להגיד
להגיד
בבוקר
בבוקר
חסדך.
חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, על יסרב ילנה ועל יגן לכם.
מה גדלו מעשיך עיניים מאוד עמקו מעשיך.
צדיק אתה מר יפרח, ירנן יסגר שתולים בבית הרב. עוד ינובון בשיבה דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת תבוא.
Page 120.
מזמור שיר חנוכת הבית לדוד. ארמים חרדים לדוד. זמר לרעך חזיר עבוד ובזרח ורצ'ות. אליך אדוני אקרא, ואל אדוני אתחנן. אליך אדוני אקרא, ואל אדוני אתחנן. שמע אדוני וחונני, אדוני אהיה עוזר לי. שמע אדוני וחונני, אדוני אהיה עוזר לי. הפכת מספדי למחולי, פיתחת זקי ותעזרני שמחה. למען יזמרך כבוד ולא ידום, אדוני אלוהי לעולם מודך.
We'll invite those of you who are mourning or observing a yahrzeit to please rise. Mourner's Kaddish, page 121. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'romav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing. The beginning of Pesukei de Zimra begins on page 122. Page 122.
La ya la 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 ya na 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya na 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 ya na 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 ya la la ya la 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 na na la la ya la 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 ya la la ya na na ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya na 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch hu Baruch oseh v'reshit Baruch omer v'oseh Baruch ozer u'mkayem Baruch merachem al haaretz Baruch merachem al habriot Baruch mishalem sachar tov lireyav Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam lanetzach Baruch chodeh u'matzil Baruch shemo ay la 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 ay la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 Yananai, yanai, nai, nai. Yananai, yanai, nai, nai, nai. Lai, 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. יחיד חי עולמי, מלך משובח ומפואר, ידיעת שמו הגדול. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מעולל בתשבחו.
Amen. You can be seated as we continue with Ashrei on page 136.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יעללוך סלע. אשרי העם שככה לו, אשריהם שאדוני אלוהיו. תהילה לדוד ממך, לעולם מלך ורווחה שמך לעולם מלכים וברכה. חנון ברוך למן אדוני ירחם. איני יכול אליך יסבר ובתנתי. פותח את ידיך ומשפיע לכל חי רצון, צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו וחסי בכל מעשיו קרובנו. תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah.
Page 137.
Hallelujah. הללי נפשי את אדוני. הללי בחיי הזמר לאלוהי בעודי אל תבטחו בי. אשר של יעקב וישראל. אותם משפט השוקעים נותן להם ערבים. אדוני שומר את גרים, יתום ימנה יודד ודרך רשעים יעוות. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. Hallelujah. Page 141, Psalm 150. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, בקודשו, hallelujah, ברקיע עוזו, hallelujah, בגבורותיו, hallelujah, כרוב גודלו, hallelujah, בתקע שופר, hallelujah, בנבל וכינור, hallelujah, בטוף ומחול, hallelujah, במינים ויוגב, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, הללויה, הללויה בצלצלי שמה, הללויה בצלצלי תשובה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, הללויה. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. ברוך אדוני מציון שכם שלם אמן. וברוך שם כבודו לעולם, וימלך כבודו את כל הארץ. אמן ואמן.
Page 145.
נשמת כל חי, תברך את שמך אדוני אלוהינו. ברוך הבשר תפארתו ומזבחו ירגיל תמיד. אילופינו מלא שירה קיים, ולשוננו נקמון גלה, ושפתותינו שלום. אין אנחנו מספיקים. ברך את שמך אדוני. אותנו ואמותינו ועמנו ממצרים, ידענו אדוני אלוהינו מבין הבנים וניתנו ברב זנתנו וזמנו בננו. כי כל פלך היודה וכל לשון לך תשבע, וכל ברך לך תכרע, וכל קומה לפניך תשתחווה, וכל לבבות יראוך, וכל קרב וכליות יזמרו לשמך, כדבר שכתוב, כל עצמותי תאמרנה אדוני מי כמוך, מציל אני מחזק ממנו, ואני באביון מגוזלו. מי ידמה לך, ומי ישווה לך, ומי יערוך לך? האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ. נעללך ונשבחך ונפארך, ונברך את שם קודשך. כאמור לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני, וכל קרבי את שם קודשו.
Page 147, the second paragraph, Shochenad.
שוכנת מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני, לישרים נאווה תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובמקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל. על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך.
Please rise for Yishtabach on the next page.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ, מלכנו אדוני אלוהינו מלכנו. ברכות והודעות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם וליומי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעולמה ואמרו
Amen. The Baruch Hu are called to prayer towards the bottom of page 149.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. הכל יודוך.
We can all be seated as we're continuing with the first bracha before the Shema, page 150.
אין קרקך ואין זולתך, אפס בלתך ומי דומה לך. אין קרקך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס בלתך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים. יא לילה לי, יא לילה לילה, יא ניי 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 ניי, יא לילה לי, יא לילה לילה, לילה לילה לילה. אל אדון על כל המעשים המעשים. ברוך ומבורך, ברוך ומבורך, בפי כל נשמה. גודלו וטובו מלא עולם, דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו. גודלו וטובו מלא עולם, דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו. אל אדון על כל המעשים, על כל המעשים. ברוך ומבורך, ברוך ומבורך, בפי כל נשמה. המתגאה על חיות הקודש, ונדר בכבוד על המרכבה. זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו. לי 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 לי. טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת, בבינה ופסקל. כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב תבל. אל אדון על כל המעשים, על כל המעשים. ברוך ומבורך, ברוך ומבורך, בפי כל נשמה. מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נועז זיום בכל העולם. שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים בימה רצון קונם. לי 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 ya nai na nai nai alai la lai lai lai. פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו. קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה. אל אדון על כל המעשים, על כל המעשים. ברוך ומבורך, ברוך ומבורך, לפי כל נשמה. שבח שבח נותנים לו, כל צבא צבא מרום. תפארת וגדולה, סרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש. היי עלי עלי ינאי עלי 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 נאי 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 עלי 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 לאל אשר שבת מכל המעשים. ביום השביעי תל אביב שיהיה לו כיסא כבודו. תתברך מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידך, ועל מאורי עול שעשית יפרוך הסלע.
Page 153.
תתברך צורנו, מלכנו וגואלנו, בורא קדושים. השתבח מעולם מגנו יותר משאתים אשר מתנה כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים בימה וביראה רצון קונם. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור. להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ונימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, ואופנים וחיות הקודש, ורעש גדול מן השאים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, לאל ברוך לאמותיתנו. המחדש בטובו בכל יום. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
The first blessing before the Shema, after the Baruch Hu, is a blessing where we celebrate God's creative capacity. The second blessing, Ahava Rabbah, is a blessing of love. And so we hope as to sort of emulate God by channeling our creative capacities in a loving manner to bring blessing to the world. Ahava Rabbah, page 154, and please gather your tzitzit in preparation for the Shema.
אהבה רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותרחמת עלינו, אבינו. והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך, והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות, קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך גדול סלע סלע, באמת להודות לך, וליחדך וליחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו מצוותיו אשר לכם מצאתם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Page 157.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וחיסו נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת. חיים וקיימים על הראשונים אל האחרונים דבר טוב וקיים מעולם ועד אמת. גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו יוצרנו צור ישועתנו פודנו מצילנו מעולם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך. עזרת אבותינו ואמותינו אתה הוא מעולם מגן ומושלים נאמר חיים פחות עד שישמע למצוותיך ותורתך דברך ישים על ליבו אמונתך.
Herschel does that.
Yeah, I think so, but I can just email me and I'll figure it out.
תהילה לאל עליון ברוך הוא ומבורך. משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכענו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם. ילאי ללאי לאי 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 ינאי נאי נאי יאי לאי 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 ילאי ללאי לאי 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 ינאי ללאי יא לאי 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 הלאי ללאי לאי 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 מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא עושה פלא שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ילאי ללאי לאי 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 צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל ובדחנו ממך יהודה וישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 159, the Amidah.
job.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Agadol Hagibor ve'Anora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol Vezocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Ve'yahava Melech Ozer Ufoked U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ufoked Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayim Eitim Ata, Rav Lehoshia, Mashiva Ruach Umorid Hagashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot umi domelach melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lachayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hametim.
The Kedusha, page 161.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam Keshem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom Kakatuv ayad neviecha v'kara zeh el zeh Ve'yamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzivaot Meloch ol haaretz kevodo Az b'kol erash gadol Adir v'chazak mashmi'im ko Minaseim Leumat serafim Leumatam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kevod Adonai Mihi Mekomo Mimkom Chamalkenu Tofia V'timloch Aleinu Ki Mechakim Anachnu Lach Matai Timloch B'Tzion Bekarov b'yameinu leolam va'ed tishkon titkada v'titkadash betoch Yerushalayim ircha ledor vador ulenetzach netzachim ve'eineinu tirena malchutecha kadavar ha'amur b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Meshiach tzidkecha yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohai Tzion ledor vador Hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid godlecha ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. ישמח שמו.
And when you've completed your Amidah, you can be seated.
יתקרא ויקרא שמי רבה.
אמן.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימלך מלכותי בחייכון ובימיכון ובחייתך בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב ימרו. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך. לעולם וליומי עולמי. יתברך וישתבח ויתפור ויתרומם וינשא ותדר וידלה ודלל שמי לקודשה. בריחו לי אלה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בימה ויאמרו. אמן. תתקבל צלותון ובאותון דכל ישראל קודם אבוהון דבישמעיה ויאמרו. אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו. אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו Amen.
Yesher Koach to the cantor for leading a spirited shacharit, and we welcome her back. So the short, Bekitzor, Israel didn't quite, I'm just kind of get it out for everybody. So unfortunately, Israel closed its borders to tourists, so the cantor had this great trip planned. That didn't come to fruition. Some of you heard about that, but we're glad that she still took the time to enjoy New York with Mel, and I heard some shows were in the. And so I know it wasn't the vacation that you planned on, but we'll work on getting you back there real soon. So we want to welcome you back with open arms. And while Israel's borders were closed, the Ariels are open. So welcome home. And now we want to say welcome to everyone here. So for those of you I don't know, I'm Brian Schuldenfrei. I'm the rabbi here, and it's great to have all of you here. So what I'd like you to do is just how can we reach up if we don't reach out, right? When we're in a sanctuary, we say that we're reaching up to God, but if we don't reach out to one another, it's a little bit odd to think that our prayers can touch the divine without our prayers being heard or without recognizing the other. So what I'd like you to do is just to take a moment. Please rise up out of your chairs. Look and find someone that you don't know or haven't seen in a while. Exchange names with that person, and maybe a highlight from Hanukkah, a Hanukkah highlight. That's okay, we're not counting. Shabbat shalom, everyone. If you like the person you're talking to, you can grab a bagel with them later. Shabbat shalom. I know. We're Jews, we're always talking. So we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you saying hello to one another. And as folks come in, please always introduce yourself to the people with whom you're seated. And it's great to see smiling faces under those masks. We can tell when the smiles are still there. We're going to begin our Torah service on page 168. Seder Kriyat HaTorah begins on page 168.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, v'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch, Leolam voed, Adonai oz li'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom, avarachamim, heitiva v'irtzonecha et Zion. Tivne Chomot Yerushalayim, Tivne Chomot Yerushalayim, Ki vecha levad batachnu, Melech Eram v'nisa, Adon Olamim.
Please rise as the ark is open.
Vayehi bin soa ha'aron, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, veyafutzu oivecha, veyanusu mesanecha mipanecha. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai mi Yerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato.
The bottom of page 170.
Be'yanarachetz, ve'lishme kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Emar Tushbechan, Be'anarachetz, Be'anarachetz, Ve'lishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Amar Tushbechan, Yehera v'kodamach, V'tiftach libi b'yoraita, V'tashli mishalin telibi, V'liba decholamach Yisrael, L'tav u'lechayin, V'lishlam. Amen. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti uneramim Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagidula, diagivura, diatiferet, dianetzach ve'aod. Ki chol bashamayim u'ba'aretz, ki chol bashamayim u'ba'aretz. Adonai hamamlacha, V'yamit na'aseh lechol rosh romimu, romimu. Adonai Eloheinu, ve'yishtachavu, ve'yishtachavu, lehadom raglav kadoshu, romimu, romimu. Adonai Eloheinu, ve'yishtachavu, ve'yishtachavu, lehar kodsho, ki kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu.
Find a place. While you're talking, I'm going to find a place.
We can all be seated. So like all couples, my wife and I have a signal. It's a signal that when we're in one of those parenting moments, one of those moments where we're not exactly on the same page, which only occurs, I don't know, about 20, 30 times a day, we have a signal that lets the other one know that we'd like to kind of like have a sidebar and not discuss it in front of the kids, which is, they're at a different synagogue at a bar mitzvah today, so they're not watching. I could just say, the sidebar is, oh, would you like to talk upstairs for a moment? It's not so, and the kids are kind of are catching on as they're getting a little older, but that's our signal. We realize that sort of having a discussion about the parenting process in the company of our children may not be the best idea. And I mention all of this because there is a similar kind of moment in the reunion story that occurs in this week's Torah portion in Parshat Vayigash. So many of us are familiar with the narrative of Joseph and his reunification with his brothers. Judah steps forward and advocates for Benjamin, and overcome with emotion, Joseph reveals himself as not only the viceroy of Egypt, but he says, hey, it's me, it's Joseph. You remember the little guy who you threw in the pit all those years ago? That's who I am. But there's an interesting part of the narrative that caught my eye this week, and I spent a lot of time kind of clicking around in various rabbinic commentaries trying to understand it or understand the different perspectives, and that is that before Joseph reveals himself, he essentially does what me and my wife do, which he says, everybody out. He asks for a moment of privacy. Only him and his brothers. Now, you may not think this is such a big deal. We don't have like a royal court in our house, so we are always alone with our children. But Joseph was the viceroy of Egypt. There must have been in the room with him many servants, army officers, officers of the court, etc. And what he does was something very unusual. He stops the discussion and he says, everybody out. And then he reveals himself. So the question that many rabbinic commentators discuss is, why did he ask for that moment of privacy? With my wife and myself, it's clear we don't want our kids to see discord. But why did Joseph need that moment of privacy with his brothers? And so before I tell you what the rabbis say, what do you think? Why did Joseph, or why would you in that moment have asked for a moment of privacy? Why did he kick everyone out before revealing himself to his brothers? Okay, so Ernie is first up. Go ahead, Ernie. Okay, so one answer, and this is a very commonly held belief, Joseph did it for himself. Joseph said, look, I'm the viceroy of Egypt. I don't want them, the Egyptians, to see me and become overcome with emotions. I need to maintain a position of strength and dignity in my office. Okay. Other possible reasons. Not to embarrass who? Not to embarrass his brothers. Say more. Your first time here, and your name is Ruth. I was going to say that. Okay, Ruthie. Okay, go ahead, Ruthie. Why didn't he want to tell? Ruthie says Joseph dismisses it. She says, Mr. Goodman, I've heard that you are a past president of the synagogue and we've never met before, but you're wrong. It's not because of Joseph's dignity. I'm being hyperbolic here. We could still have a bagel afterwards. And we could even share a Danish, but you're wrong. It wasn't about himself. It was about his brothers. And tell us more about that, Ruthie, nice and loudly. Okay, because if he said something, I want to extrapolate a little bit about what Ruthie is saying. If he said, hey, in the Egyptian court, and it's recorded, guess what, my brother, you're forgiven. Then the next question is, what did they do? And then he tells in front of the rabbinic court how once upon a time, he, the viceroy of Egypt, was thrown into a ditch by these guys. That's not going to bode well for a welcoming party for the brothers as they're coming into Egypt. Perhaps they would even be sentenced to death. So Ruthie says it's the dignity of the brothers. Ernie says it's the dignity of Joseph. Ruthie suggests it's the dignity of the brothers. Any other thoughts? Go ahead. It's not about dignity.
It's not about position. It's about feelings. It's a very private moment.
Okay, so Zissel says, even though I am incorrect in my allegiance of baseball teams, and I like the Washington Nationals, Ive is correct. It's not about dignity. It's not about protecting the office. It's not about protecting his brothers from legal liability. It's a moment. It's a moment of privacy. Okay? All right? They're all right. A very...
He just doesn't want anyone to really know who he is, to leave it out, and to be very private.
Okay.
He doesn't have to announce who he is.
So it's all of the above. You can preserve your brother's dignity, the dignity of your office, and your own private feelings all with one motion. Very nice. So the rabbinic commentators, the classical commentators, see many of the things that you all have introduced. And I appreciated this discussion. We could see how it animates what we imagine the story could have looked like. And my hope and thought for this Shabbat is that as we consider how Joseph handled himself in a delicate interpersonal situation, we can all reflect on the need for privacy sometimes when we're engaged in interpersonal, tense interpersonal exchanges, right? That sometimes it's best to say, we need a moment. My wife and I do it, probably need to do it a little bit more. Joseph does it. We're all shaking our heads at the need for it, and to think about the ways that we can preserve our own dignity, the dignity of the others, as well as honor the emotional spectrum upon which we sit. Shabbat Shalom.
Tell us our
The Torah service can be found on the top of page 283.
ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל אבו גודל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה. יעמדו שמעון משה בניסים אברהם ורחל זירל בת משה לעלייה הראשונה. ברוך שנתן ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Hu Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'nasan lanu es torato. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein Torah.
Amen.
You didn't start yet, you forgot? What did you start with? Vayetze? What, do you know what verse it is?
I don't know. Can you show me where the parsha starts? Not sure.
Where the parsha starts? Vayigash?
Yeah, so it's yeah, it's a little bit before this.
Before this?
Yeah. And from
Vayetze Le'echad? And then you read like straight 3 aliyot from
yes,
there?
correct.
Okay, we're going to turn back to page 275, verse number 28. You find by 8 say it's going to be after. You got it?
אמן. ויצא האחד מאיתי, ואומר, אך טרוף טורף, ולא ראיתי בת הנה. ולקחתם גם את זה מעם פניי, וקראו אסון, והורדתם את שיבתי ברעה שעולה, ואתה כבואי אל עבדיך אבי, והנער איננו איתנו, ונפשו קשורה בנפשו.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasan lanu Torah emes v'chayen ota b'socheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten Torah.
The second Aliyah can be found on page 275, verse 31.
יעמדו.
Avram ben Moshe, Avram ben Zorah,
I remember that. Avram ben Zorach
Ruchel Ruchel.
Brochel
מתתיהו בן אברהם ושרה.
Matityahu ben Avram v'Sara what? Ben Avraham v'Sharon. You should know your mother's name. V'Sharon bat.
Moshe.
Bat Moshe. V'sara l'aliyah hashniya lichvod yom huledet shel Abraham.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMarach. Baruch Adonai HaMarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
אמן והיה כראותו כי אין הנער ומת והורידו עבדיך את שיבת עבדיך אבינו ביגון שעולה כי עבדיך הרב את הנער מעם אבי לאמור אם לא אבינו אליך וחטאתי לאבי כל הימים ועתה ישב נא עבדיך תחת הנער עבד לאדוני והנער יעל עם אחיו כי יחל אל אביו והנער איננו איתי פן ערב הרע אשר ימצא את אבי.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emes v'chayei olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And Alan, in the presence of your wife and one of your sons, we want to just offer you words of blessing as you celebrate this milestone birthday. It's number 36, right?
Amen.
Amen. And actually, Alan, what I want to do is, over the past 6 months that we've gotten to know each other just a little bit, I want to tell you what I see, which is something that's related to this Torah portion. The Torah portion talks about Judah approaching the viceroy of Egypt, Joseph. And the Sfat Emet, who's this Hasidic commentator, suggests that it's actually not a physical approach, but it's the first time in Judah's life that he approaches with a full awareness of who he is. In other words, Judah's lived a life where he's made mistakes and he's gotten beaten up a good amount. But finally, Judah understands who he is, and because of that, he's able to approach the viceroy with a fullness of purpose and a fullness of heart and a fullness of soul. What I so appreciate about you, Alan, is it took, I don't know how long it's taken you to learn this, but you are who you are, right? You are just like, anyone who meets Alan knows who he is within 5 minutes of meeting him. And that is such a great blessing. The blessing of being able to stand before a community of friends and family and just be yourself. So many of us spend our lives trying to put on guises. That's a guise that Joseph wore. Judah, in some ways, experiences guises as well as he tries to figure out who he is. But Alan, you are who you are, and that is a tremendous blessing. So as you stand here with your wife and one of your sons, we want to wish you just a life filled with assuredness that the person who you are is a person with a lot of love, a person of integrity, and a lot of passion, and a real blessing. And let us all say to that, Amen.
Amen.
And now we're going to offer you words of Birkat Kohanim.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
As God has guarded over you and blessed you, may God continue to bless you with love and fullness of life.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
As God has been gracious to you, giving you so much, may God continue to be gracious to you, and may you continue now to offer the world the blessings of your heart.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May the path of your life continue to be filled with light, with love, and with blessing. And let us all say, Amen.
Mazel tov. Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov. Yehelanu, 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 ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. I meant to sing Yom Huledet Sameach, so just pretend.
I have a good imagination.
The third Aliyah can be found on page 275, paragraph 45, verse 1.
Ya'amdu, a whole bunch of people for Aliyah Shlishit. Tucker, Sylvia, Bailey, Mark, and Sherry. Where's Sylvia? I'm not going to do all the names.
Asher b'charvanu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. אמן, ולא יכול יוסף להתאפק לכל הניצבים עליו, ויקרא, הוציאו כל איש מעלי, ולא עמד איש איתו, בהתוודע יוסף אל אחיו, ויתן את קולו בבכי, וישמעו מצרים, וישמע בית פרעה. ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, אני יוסף, העוד אבי חי, ולא יכלו אחיו לענות אותו, כי נבהלו מפניו. ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, גשו נא אלי ויגשו. ויאמר אני יוסף אחיכם, אשר מכרתם אותי מצרימה, ועתה אל תעצבו, ואל יכר בעיניכם, כי מכרתם אותי הנה, כי למחיה שלחני אלוהים לפניכם. כי זה 2 הרעב בקרב הארץ, ועוד 5 שנים, אשר אין חריש וקציר.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emes, v'chai olam atah b'tzachenu. Baruch atah Adonai noseinu Torah.
The fourth Aliyah can be found on page 285, verse 7.
It should be right here somewhere. VOC.
Ya'amdu l'aliyah haravi'it.
Baruch et Adonai habarach. Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayave Yosef et Yaakov aviv, vayamidehu lifnei Paro, vayivarech Yaakov et Paro. Vayomer Paro el Yaakov, kama yemei shnei chayecha, Vayomer Yaakov el Paro, Yemei Shnei Megurai, Shloshim Umaat Shana, Me'at V'raim, Hayu Yemei Shnei Chayai, V'lo Hisigu, Et Yemei Shnei Chaye Avotai, Bimei Megurehem. Vayivarech Yaakov et Paro, Vayetze milifnei Paro.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
The Torah service continues on page 286, verse 11.
יעמדו לעלייה חמישית.
Can I say something? Am I allowed to say something? Sure. I just want to thank Alan for inviting me here for his 36th birthday. I'm a year older, so that's good for me too. And it was a blessing to see this. Thank you. Baruch Adonai Hamarach, Baruch Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'nosan lanu es toraso, Baruch Atah Adonai nosein ha'Torah.
Amen. Vayoshev Yosef et aviv et echav, vayiten lahem achuzah be'eretz Mitzrayim, b'meitav ha'aretz be'eretz Ramses, kasher tziva Faro. V'yachalkel Yosef et aviv et echav, v'et kol beit aviv lechem lefi hataf, v'lechem ein b'chol haaretz, ki chaved harav ma'od. V'atei la'eretz Mitzrayim ve'eretz Canaan, mipnei harav. V'yelaket Yosef et kol hakesef hanimtza be'eretz Mitzrayim u'be'eretz Canaan, Bashever asher heim shovrim. Vayaveh Yosef et hakesef beita Faro. Vayitom hakesef me'eretz Mitzrayim u'me'eretz Canaan. Vayavo chol Mitzrayim el Yosef le'mor, havalanu lechem v'lama namut negdecha, ki afes kasef. Vayomer Yosef havu miknechem, v'yatna lachem b'miknechem, im afes kasef. Vayaviu et miknehem el Yosef, vayiten lahem Yosef lechem basusim, uvemiknei hatzon, uvemiknei habakar v'chamorim, vayinahalem balechem v'chol miknehem bashana hahi. Vatitom hashana hahi, vayavo'u elav bashana hashenit. Vayomru lo nechached me'adoni, ki im tam hakesef, u'miknei habehema el adoni, lo nishar lifnei adoni, bilti im gviatenu v'admatenu. Lama namut le'enecha, gam anachnu gam admatenu, K'nei otanu v'et admatenu balachem, v'niyeh anachnu v'admatenu avadim lefaro, v'tein zera, v'nichyeh v'lo namut, v'ha'adama lo tesham.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nasan lanu Toras emes, v'chayei olam notaf v'posenu. Baruch atah Adonai, nosein haTorah.
The sixth aliyah can be found on page 287, verse 20.
Ya'amdu Daniel Moshe ben Meir Tzvi v'Rachel uMiriam Ruth bat Avram v'Sara al aliyah hashishit.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Vayiken Yosef et kol admat Mitzrayim lefaro, ki machru Mitzrayim ish sadehu, ki chazak alehem harav, vatehi haaretz lefaro, v'et ha'am he'evir oto le'arim, miktzei gevul Mitzrayim v'yad kitzehu, rak admat hakohanim lo kana, ki chok lakohanim et paro, v'yachlu et chukam asher natan lahem paro, al ken lo machru et admatam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nataf etochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
To the funks, we want to say, first of all, Yesher Koach, but we also want to say Seichem L'Shalom. May you they are moving for now to Seattle to be with their family and to enjoy their grandchildren. And I find it somewhat poetic that you're marking your last Shabbat for now here on this Torah portion, because this is also a Torah portion of transitions. I imagine that Jacob, who gets word that his whole mishpacha now is going to be reunited in Egypt. Now, Seattle and Egypt, a little bit different weather, but the idea is the same, that when you have your children, you go to them and you help them build their lives. And that's what Jacob did in the Torah portion, and it's what you're both doing now. And while we know that it is difficult for your many, many years of investment in this community and your lives here in Los Angeles, that the next chapter in your lives is certain to be filled with blessing, with the smiles of grandchildren and family. And so we say to you, as Jacob went in peace to Egypt with divine permission, that we all just celebrate your decision, and can't wait to hear about your lives as it takes formation. So, Nisiya Tova.
The seventh aliyah can be found on page 288, verse 23.
Ya'amdu Pesach ben Yosef HaKohen ve'Rivka bat Avram v'Sara l'aliyah hashvi'it.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol chamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Yosef el Ham, Hein kaniti etchem hayom, ve'et admadchem lefaro, Heilachem zera, uzeratem et ha'adama. Vehaya batuot, unatatem chamishit lefaro, ve'arba hayadot yelachem, lezera hasadeh ul'ochlachem, ve'la'asher bevatechem, ve'l'chol etabchem. Vayomru hechayitanu, nimtza chen be'enei Adoni, v'hayinu avadim lefaro, v'yasem ota Yosef lechok, ad hayom hazeh al admat Mitzrayim, lefaro lachomesh, rak admat hakohanim levadam, lo hayta lefaro. Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim be'eretz Goshen, vayeachazuva, vayifru vayirbu me'od.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayeh olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Please rise for the Reader's Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'yomechon v'yelechol beit Yisrael b'gala u'vizman kariv yimeru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam le'omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudishah.
B'rechu.
V'yelah min kol brachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'yimeru.
Amen. Please be seated, and you can turn to the maftir to page 288, verse 25.
Yamod Chaim ben Yosef Halevi v'Yehudit. Maftir Chazak.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayomru hechayitanu, nimtza chen b'nei Adoni, v'hayinu avadim lefaro, vayasem ota Yosef lechok, ad hayom hazeh al admat Mitzrayim, lefaro lachomesh, rak admot hakohanim levadam, lo hayta lefaro. Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim be'eretz Goshen, vayeachazuva, vayifru vayirbu me'od.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. יעמדו המגביה והגוללת.
Please rise for the lifting and wrapping of the Sefer Torah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכי המאושר. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכי המאושר. דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. לי 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 I la 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 la
We can all be seated. At this point in the service, we reflect on our good fortunes, the opportunity to celebrate milestones with family, to celebrate new beginnings, to celebrate Shabbat, to celebrate community. And we recognize all that we have been blessed with. And we also then recognize that there are many people who are experiencing true hardship and suffering. And so, if you know of someone who is in need of healing, whether it's a healing of the body or soul, please rise in your place. And when I look in your direction, please share the name or the names of the people for whom you're praying so we can all keep them in our prayers as well.
Mishmerach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah u'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim Elna Refana Elna Refana la Elna Refana Elna Refana lo.
We'll start on the Bima today.
Lead of bracha.
Hillel Wasserman, Tim Goodell, Brandon Sutton. Janice Reese, Bill Sanders.
Jonathan Michael Ben Adrian, Mitchell Blackman, National Family, Tova Bar Hana, Eliezer Hamid Ben Habiba, Lisa Gita, Del Bar Malka, Yehudit Nida Bar Malka, Judy Walsh, Alex Weiss, Jacob Weiss, Leah Naomi Ben Hadassah, Mira Mr. Bashendu, and the members of the United States Armed Forces and IDF Larry Armstrong.
Robert Ainsley and Aminu Nagid. Matt Rubenfeld. Michelle Vasquez.
White Schumann. Emily Beckmeyer.
Sarah Devar Rukabat.
Hannah Celia Chaktara, Miriam Bat Yocheved Hayatova, Hayatova Batzipora, Benzion Kravitz, Brian Heap, Leanne Gardner, and all those affected by the tornadoes last night.
Judith Bershak, Great White.
Mayor Vignona, Yona Buckley Noir, Marguerite Bach Root, Tom Halfstead.
Did I miss anyone? And on this Shabbat, our prayers and our thoughts are especially with those affected by those horrible tornadoes in Kentucky. Our prayers and thoughts are with them all.
Mishberach Avoteinu Avram Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu Yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim.
We now turn to the Haftarah, and the Haftarah, which is reflects a sense of national hope and reconciliation. The reconciliation in the Haftarah is a people, and of course the reconciliation in our Torah portion is that of a family. But the Haftarah from the book of Ezekiel is our selection for this morning, and it can be found beginning on page 291.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'ratzav v'divreihem hane'emarim behemet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'torah u'Moshe avdoho, u'Yisrael amoho, u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. Vayehi devar Adonai Elai le'mohor, ve'ata ven adam, kach lecha ha'etz echad, uchtov alav liYehuda, v'livnei Yisrael chaverav, u'lekach etz echad, uchtov alav, le'osef etz Ephraim, v'chol beit Yisrael chaverav. Ve'karavotam echad el echad, lechad le'etz echad, ve'hayu la'achadim beyadecha. Ve'cha'asher yomru elecha, b'nei amecha lemor, halo tagid lanu ma'ele lach. Daber alehem, ko amar Adonai Elohim, hine hani lokeach et et Yosef asher biad Ephraim, v'shivtei Yisrael chaverav, v'natati otam alav et Yehuda, v'asitihim le'etz echad, v'hayu echad biadi. V'hayu ha'etzim asher tichtov aleihem, biadcha le'eineihem, v'daber aleihem, ko amar Adonai Elohim, hine ani lokeach et b'nei Yisrael mibein hagoyim, asher halchu sham, v'kibatzti otam misaviv, v'heveti otam el admatam, ve'asiti otam לגוי אחד בארץ בהרי ישראל, ומלך אחד יהיה לכולם למלך, ולא יהיו עוד לשני גויים, ולא יחצו עוד לשתי ממלכות עוד, ולא יטמאו עוד בגילוליהם ובשיקוציהם ובכל פשעיהם, והושעתי אותם מכל מושבותיהם אשר חטאו בהם, וטיהרתי אותם, והיו לי לעם, ואני אהיה להם לאלוהים. ועבדי דוד מלך עליהם, ורועה אחד יהיה לכולם, ובמשפטה ילכו, וחוקותה ישמרו, ועשו אותם. וישבו על הארץ אשר נתתי לעבדי ליעקב, אשר ישבו בה אבותיכם, וישבו עליה המה ובניהם ובני בניהם עד עולם, ודוד עבדי ונשיא להם לעולם. וחרתי להם ברית שלום, ברית עולם יהיה אותם, ונתתי והרביתי אותם, ונתתי את מקדשי בתוכם לעולם. והיה משכני עליהם, והייתי להם לאלוהים, והמה יהיו לי לעם. וידעו הגויים כי אני אדוני מקדש את ישראל, בהיות מקדשי בתוכם לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם. כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו, ברוך אתה אדוני. משמח ציון בבניה, שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Yasher koach.
Yesher koach. We want to thank Adam Spiegel. Adam not only chants a beautiful and very quick Haftarah, he also, I was all the way in the back and I got to hightail it back to the Bima for page announcements. But Adam is also every week make sure that we have a Haftarah reader. So if any of you would like to volunteer for future Haftarot, Adam would definitely appreciate that. So if anyone would like to, dust off the old bar bat mitzvah Haftarah and bring it back into the rotation, we could certainly arrange for that. Just contact Adam, and we could set you up with the materials that you need to be successful. Okay, we are now going to continue with a prayer for our country, followed by a prayer for Israel. So back in the Red Sidurim, page 177, towards the bottom of the page, just in fact the last paragraph, a prayer for our country. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, for all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say, Amen. And then we have a prayer for the state of Israel. Let's read together in the Hebrew on the top of page 178. Page 178 together in the Ivrit. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzor Yisrael v'goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmi'ichat Gulatenu, Hagen aleha be'vrat chastecha, Ufros alea sukat shlomecha, Ushlach orcha v'amicha l'rashea sareha v'yoatzea, V'taknem be'etza tova milfanecha, Chazek et yidei mignei eretz kodshenu, V'hanchilem Eloheinu Yeshua, V'ateret nitzachon ta'atrem, V'natata shalom ba'aretz, V'simchat olam yoshvea, V'nomar Amen. And may Israel continue to be a beacon of hope and light to the world. And let us all say, Amen. Amen. Not found in our Sidurim, but very important today, is a special musical selection in honor of our birthday boy, Alan. The cantor has prepared a special little something for you in celebration of this big birthday.
So I don't really know, Alan, what you wanted me to sing. I just knew you wanted me to sing something. And I wasn't going to be here, so we never continued the conversation. So knowing that you wanted me to sing something, and knowing that today is the continuation of the Joseph story, how could I not sing a little tidbit from Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat? Because why not? I was just in New York, and I'm in a very musical theater mood. So because this is the Parsha in which, as we've discussed, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, here is a short medley of two of the selections from Joseph. And I'll tell you, it does not go well with guitar. So, I mean, I'm just going to strum along with myself, but folks, don't try this at home. And Joseph knew by this his brothers now were honest men. The time had come at last to reunite them all again. Can't you recognize my face? Is it hard to see that Joseph, who you thought was dead, your brothers, is me? I wore my coat. This is where you come in. You need to copy me. If you know this, please fill in the second part. I wore my coat. Very good. With golden lining, bright colors shining, wonderful and new. And in the east, the dawn was breaking, and the world was waking. Any dream will do. Joseph, Joseph, is it really true? Joseph, Joseph, is it really you? Any dream will do. Happy birthday.
Yesher Koach, very beautiful. Yesher Koach. We're going to continue with Ashrei on page 181.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yalelucha Sela. Hashem Shavach Alo Hashem הנה יכול לך יסביר. פותח את ידיך, משמיע לך חי רצון צדיק, הנראה בכל דרך והדי בחמאס הקורבן. תהילת אדוני דבר פיו, יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah.
Please rise as the ark is opened and the Sefer Torah is returned, page 183.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו, הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לימו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. Hallelujah, hallelujah. מזמור לדוד, אבו לאדוני בני אלים, אבו לאדוני כבוד לעוז, אבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד ירים, אדוני על מים רבים, אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. ובנוחו יאמר, שוב חתך. כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזובו, עץ חיים היא, למה חזיקים בה ותומכיה מיושר, דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
We can all be seated. It's now my pleasure to introduce the birthday boy. Alan will share a few words of Torah in honor and in celebration of his special birthday today. What's that? You wanted the number out there? In honor of his 70th birthday.
It just looks long. Good Shabbos. That was kind of lame. Let's try that again. Good Shabbos. Now we can talk some Torah. Okay. Today's Torah portion is Vayigash in the book of Genesis. And it's about the continuing saga of Joseph and his brothers and the struggles and successes in Joseph's life and the struggles and successes in the lives of Joseph's brothers. In summary, Joseph is the favorite son of our patriarch Jacob, and Joseph's brothers are extremely jealous and hate Joseph, and although their original intent was to kill Joseph, they end up selling Joseph into slavery. The plot thickens, and Joseph becomes the viceroy of Egypt, the second most powerful man in Egypt other than the Pharaoh. Joseph and his brothers eventually reconcile, and their relationship becomes a lot less dysfunctional. If you want a more in-depth analysis of the saga, go to Broadway and go see the show, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Thank you, Judy. That truly was a wonderful birthday surprise that you gave me. Now that we're all on the same page of the story in the Torah, let's put the story aside and jump to the second book into the Torah, Exodus. Let's go specifically to the Torah portion, Yitro, where the nation of Israel agrees to be entrusted with the Torah. As the people respond, "We will do." God then speaks the words of the Ten Commandments to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai. To just quickly refresh your memory, I'm going to just read the Ten Commandments because you're going to need them in 2 seconds. Okay. 1, you shall have no other gods before me. 2, you shall make no idols. 3, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. 4, keep the Sabbath day holy. 5, honor your father and mother. 6, you shall not murder. 7, you shall not commit adultery. 8, you shall not steal. 9, you shall not bear false witness. 10, you shall not covet. I want to do a quick survey, and I'm going to reread the 10 Commandments. And after each commandment, if that particular commandment happens to be the most meaningful or impactful commandment to you, just go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, so I just want to take a quick survey. So I'm going to read the 10 Commandments again and again. When you hear the one that's most impactful, just raise your hand. Okay, 1, you shall have no other gods before me. Okay, bingo. Okay, you shall make no idols. Okay, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Okay, keep the Sabbath day holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. Oh, we've got some honest people in this room. Very nice. Very nice. But don't worry, we're studying Torah here, not 613 shades of mitzvot, so it's all right to answer okay to adultery. Next, you shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Oh, okay. And last, you shall not covet. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. In terms of why I did this survey, I'm going to tell you, with respect to myself, I'm not going to answer that question in terms of which is the most impactful to me, because really I think that it's an unfair question to ask, because at different times and circumstances in my life, one commandment might be more meaningful and important to me than at other times. However, I can say that after taking a deeper dive into the saga of Joseph and his story in the Torah, to me, the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet, certainly moved up the importance ladder to me. So what does it mean to covet? According to Webster, to covet means to desire enviously that which belongs to another. It's more than just jealousy, it's a burning desire and craving. Philo, who was a Jewish philosopher who lived 25 BCE to 50 CE, stated that craving what is not one's own is the root of all social evil. Why else does one murder, commit adultery, steal, or bear false witness? Rabbi Yochim, who lived around 900 CE, believed that to violate, do not covet, is tantamount to violating all 10 commandments in the Torah. Wow, these are pretty powerful words. Coveting is a common theme throughout the Torah that leads to destruction of relationships and civility between family members and members of society. In the first book of Torah, Bereshit, Eve covets or has the burning desire to eat from the tree of knowledge, which ends up resulting in pretty major negative consequences. Coveting plays an important role in the dysfunctional lives of our patriarchs and matriarchs. Sarah covets Hagar. Isaac covets the birthright of his brother, and Jacob is guilty of the same. The Torah is teaching us to pay more attention and place a greater importance on this 10th commandment. Now, let's just jump back to Genesis and the story of Joseph. If you're now feeling a little bit lost and confused, welcome to my everyday world. However, I do feel there is a strong connection between the story of Joseph and the 10th commandment. Joseph gave his brothers reason for not liking him. He was arrogant, he was the favorite son, probably obnoxious, and worst of all, he was a tattletale. Hey, I don't like Joseph either, but my dislike is not fueled by coveting who and what Joseph is. On the other hand, the brothers coveted the life of Joseph, which led them to attempting to murder him, selling him into slavery, and having Joseph spend about 15 years of his life in prison. Rather than being able to accept their own individual circumstances, they chose to covet what and who Joseph was, and they became guilty of violating the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet. Joseph witnesses a wonderful act of redemption and tshuva by the same brothers who earlier had tried to kill him. The new action by the brothers in defending and saving the life of Benjamin, who was Jacob's second favorite son, leads to a reconciliation with Joseph and his brothers. I want to go ahead and address one other point in the story of Joseph that still plays a role in our lives every week. Towards the end of the Joseph saga, we learn that when Jacob blessed Joseph's two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, Jacob purposely crossed his hands and placed his right hand on the head of the youngest son, Ephraim, rather than on the oldest son, Manasseh. Here we go again, history repeating itself. Coveting of the blessing and the birthright. However, no mention is made further of Ephraim and Manasseh, and they appear almost as throwaway characters in the Torah and of little importance. Yet, every Friday night, when a father blesses his sons, he says, may God give you the blessings of Ephraim and Manasseh. Why wouldn't we say, may give you the blessings of Abraham, Moses, someone a little bit more, I'll say, well-known than Ephraim and Manasseh? Well, I think that there is a repeat of the theme of a mix-up with respect to, or potential mix-up, of who is entitled to the birthright. However, we do not see any fight between the brothers, even though the younger brother receives a preference over the older brother. Each brother accepts the other brother and their individual place in life and does not covet what the other has. This brings about peace, not only to each other of the two brothers, but to the whole family of Israel. May we all accept and be grateful for what we have and find peace and happiness in not violating the commandment to not covet. And may God give us all the blessings of Ephraim and Manasseh. I wish you all a very happy and peaceful Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Yesha Koach, Alan, and happy birthday. It's interesting. There's a source in Pirkei Avot which says, Ezehu Ashir, who is a rich person? And the answer is Hasamech Bechelko, someone who is content or happy with their lot. And perhaps that's, I think, certainly the point that you were driving home today. And I can't help but think that as you celebrate this birthday, that you look around and you look at your life and you say that you're happy and content with your lot. So happy birthday to you and Yesha Koach. We're going to continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 184.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah beyalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon ובחיי דרך בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יש מן הבא מבורך לעולם ולעולמי יומיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו ויאמרו אמן ויאמרו amen.
Please rise for the Musaf Amidah, beginning on page 185.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Agadol Hagibor ve'Anora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Akol V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Goel Ibnei V'neihem Lema'an Shema V'Yahava Melech Ozer U'Foked U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ufoked Sarah. Ata gibor leolam Adonai mechayim etim ata rav lehoshia. Mashiva ruach umorid agashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed. Mechayim etim berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofech olim. Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidom elach, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים ויחונם המייחדים שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמע אומרים שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית לעיני כל חי להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
When you've completed your Amidah, you can be seated. Amen.
ביומא דברכו טבים לחמכותי בחייכון ובימיכון ובחייתך בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ימרו. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם וליומי יתברך וישתבח ויפור ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה. בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה ותשבחתה ונחמתה דמיון בימה ויאמרו. אמן. תתקבל צלותון ובאותון תכל ישראל קודם אבון וישמע ויאמרו. אמן. יהי שלום רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו. אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו. Amen.
In Kelohenu, page 204.
En Keloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומתנחבים ומודים. מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ מושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד על כן נקבל לך אדוני אלוהינו ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We can all be seated. In love, we recall those who no longer walk this earth, and we are grateful to God for the gift of their lives and for the cherished memories that never fade. This week, we as a congregational community mourn the passing of Millie Freud Mendelssohn, the stepmother of Sarita Stevens. And to you, Sarita and Hank and your entire family, we say, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'Toch Sha'arei Avlei Tzion B'Yerushalayim. May God grant you comfort amongst all the mourners of Zion in Jerusalem. And may that comfort be found in all of the beautiful memories. And Sarita, I enjoyed speaking with you and hearing about your stepmother and how she served as a reminder of the need to love and support in family and really to help sustain you in your first chapters of your adult life. So May her memory continue to be a blessing. And on this Shabbat, we also mark the yurtzites of Nathan Bialik, Morris Gerber, Larry Franklin, Mendel Klausner, Arthur Wizen, Samuel Scher, Henry Godfrey, Henry Ayers, Gregory Asher, Morris Mann, Miriam Wise, Sally Kay, Ruth Belfer, Herman Brom, Frank Richter, Ben Berger, Peter Trank, Harry Siegel, Tributa Ahrens, Naomi Bauman, Dr. Oscar Goodman, Nettie Lazar, Isidore Herman, Joshua Rissman, Estelle Schaefer, Jetty Gruber, Sylvia Sachs, Barney Spector, Eunice Merkin, Stanley Superfine, Dr. Irving Sternhill, Jacob Schulman, Esther Alpert, Betty Burshak, and Betty Burshak. Is there anyone else in the community observing a yurtzeit for someone who I didn't mention? Or online, if you'd like to add the name of the person in the chat. And we'd like to ask those of you who are mourning or observing a yurtzeit to please rise as together we sanctify God's name with the words of Mourner's Kaddish on page 207. Mourner's Kaddish, page 207. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah b'yamad divra kirteh v'yamlich machuteh b'chayechon v'yameachon uv'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'bizman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Omei Elmaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudisha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechamata Damiran B'yalma V'yimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, Huya Aseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al Kol Yisrael v'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru Amen. And may the memories of our loved ones be a source of comfort and blessing for us, for our families, and for the greater people of Israel. And let us all say Amen. Before I hand things over to Adam for some announcements and words of gratitude, it's just my pleasure to welcome my colleague, Rabbi Lee Buckman, who is here visiting family. And as much as he likes the rabbi role, I could see the Saba role is one that befits him as well. So to you, to Lee, and to your wife Rachel, and to your entire family, we say Brochim Habayim, welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you here. There's a lot of wonderful things going on at in our community, and to tell you about some of them, it's my pleasure to call upon Adam Spiegel.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to see everyone. We have a Kiddush today. The Kiddush today is going to be graciously sponsored by Alan Altschul and Sharon Gerber Altschul, and also by Dennis and Rita Funk, and will be served in the LeBeau Outdoor Chapel immediately following services. I'd like to remind everybody that we still have a mask policy inside and outside, so when you're not actively eating, please keep the mask on. I'd like to also thank those who have participated in our services this morning. Our darshan was Alan Altschul. Our Torah readers were Sol Zera and Sivan Rinat. Yours truly did the Haftarah. Our Aliyah coordinator today was Jim Lesserman, and our Gabayim were Robert Sachs and Ray Glasser. We invite everyone to visit our .ral website to get all information for upcoming events and also to RSVP. But some of the highlights we still have our winter raffle going on. We are selling raffle tickets, and congratulations to all the past winners so far. Our next drawing is going to be on this Thursday, December 16th, and all proceeds will go to the annual campaign, so please get your tickets online. The prizes that are still available, in case you're wondering, 4 VIP tickets to an LA Rams game during next season with parking, a 65-inch Samsung TV, 4 Disneyland Park Hopper tickets, and 2 tickets to an exclusive movie premiere, presumably to be named later. Also want to remind everyone that this winter we have Camp Wild Folk on campus for pre-K ages 4 and up through 6th grade. So please sign up for that on the .area website. And also the .sizzle. I know everyone is wondering where it's been, but it returns this winter. If you'd like to be a guest with Eric and Herschel on the .sizzle, please email Eric Nicastro by the end of the year. Finally, I want to give a shout out. I haven't seen Paul or Cecil for a while, but those are two tremendous ponytails. So before you leave, I invite you to walk here so everyone there can see what you're sporting. Shabbat Shalom.
And it's good that you're wearing a ponytail because this coming Wednesday in our MID class, I'll be teaching about Shimon ben Shetach, who is a rabbinic sage, and what he does, what happens when he renounces the pledge of 150 Nazarites. So Nazarites are like Samson, they have long hair, so that maybe you can get a haircut on Wednesday if you want. Or not, but you can just come to the class. How about that? Okay, very good. Anyway, it is, we're happy to see everyone here, and we will be continuing with, I'm going to get this right this week. We do Adon Olam and then Kiddush. Okay, good. That's good. All right, so we're going to do Adon Olam on page 211. Adon Olam, page 211.
Okay, so I'm going to go against my rules, which is don't do an Adon Olam that you haven't tried yourself before first. Following, because, can't get enough of Joseph and his crazy story and his covetous brothers and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So even though I've tried Adon Olam to the Benjamin Calypso, I'm going to try Adon Olam to a tune called Pharaoh's Dreams Explained. None of the songs really I remember what their names are, but you might recognize the tune if you know the show. The words in English go, 7 years of bumper crops are on their way. So some of you may know that tune. Let's see how I can fit this into Adon Olam, and please try it with me. Here we go. Adon Olam, asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa, b'chefzo kol, azai melech shmo nikra, v'yacharei kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora, vehu haya, vehu oveh, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי, בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי בעת אישן ואירה. Now I'm left with one line. ואם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירה, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, li'et nasa bechefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra. Good Shabbos.
Please rise for the Kiddush. And in case you're wondering, it's this very cup that was placed in Benjamin's sack in the Joseph story. Al Kim Berach Adonai Yom HaShabbat V'Yikachehu Savri Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Borei Bria Kafen. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Tishanu B'mitzvotav V'tzivanu Al Tilat Yadayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzii lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
actually living in Van Nuys. I needed medical care and I wasn't being treated properly out there. So I got an invitation to.
Were you living in Silver Spring?
I was for 21 years.
That's where my sister and her family.
Who's that?
My sister Gail Sanders.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But they made all the albums several years ago.
Oh, no, it's more than several.
It's about 7.
Maybe more. I think more. Because I think I remember where I was living. I was in the Kent Mill section where they lived for 21 years. But I was in like 5 different places for various periods of time. But yeah, they were cool. I worked with her because she was active in Bikkur Police.
Yes.
And I did a lot of that stuff. And I knew him from Shoal.
Today, if we were there, we were at their grandson's bar mitzvah.
Really? Wow.
Our daughter-in-law is there in our state.
What's up? And what's his parents' name?
His parents' names are Sarah and Daniel Gutman. He's Mora Derish.
Very nice.
They've got 6 kids of their own, and he's their oldest.
Wow.
They live in Mitzpegi, Ricot.
Really?
Near Male Avenue.
Very cool. Very cool. I know.
In a gated community, it has a whole different meaning.
Oh, no, I know. I know that area well because, Miami 7.
Yes, very well.
So his family, they made Aliyah, finally made Aliyah. And he's actually finally leaving UJ the end of the month.
Yael loved him as a professor.
Yeah, well, he's still here, so he has been staying in the dorms because he was here for the semester.
He came to my parents. My mother died in February, and so he knew that my family was going to be sending a lift of things from there back to Israel.
Right.
So he came by. He wanted to put in some books into the lift.
Very nice.
So
He gave away a ton of books.
I'm sure.
I was saying, some people came to his library and read 100 books to this person, 200 books to other people.
Well, you're lucky if you can give them away, but because nobody wants books anymore.